New on Curiosity Stream.
I'm James Burke. I'm going to take you on a journey through time.
James Burke's visionary series returns, reimagined for our time.
Now, this is all uncharted territory.
The Washington Post hails Burke as one of the most intriguing minds in the Western world. The New York Times raves he careens from one great moment in history to another.
Where do we want to go from here?
Experience all new Connections.
So what's the next connection?
With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
I've spent a lot of time in Georgia, man, over the last few years. So, I mean, I'm...
Yeah, absolutely. So are you in Ohio now?
I am. I was actually down shooting commercials for that said coffee company I just mentioned, Kiowa Coffee. So I was down on the island there.
Oh, I love,
last week, and then just came back. So it's kind of like most of the stuff I've been doing is prepping for another film that I've been working on. But I do a couple like national commercial kind of things. So I work with Kiowa Coffee, and then I do a lot of stuff with Baird, which is a financial planning firm, if you will. They do a lot of other financial things, but I do all their national commercials too. So just, try to work, man. That's what you do when you create stuff, you're just always working.
We're fortunate in that sense, doing the kind of work that we do, that we could do it remotely and not have to be an essential worker and have to run in and keep driving and going to all these places, but you shoot on locations too.
Yeah. It's not bad. I mean, I'm accustomed to, I can be on a set with 75 people and handle that, but I can also go in and be with myself or just a small crew. I can kind of handle the load of the audio, sound, whatever. So during the COVID era, let's say, I would think there's probably a smaller percentage of guys that can still go out and service people without freaking out. I'd be in that category. So it comes in handy when you're filming documentaries, like with Chuck and doing The Tree Man. You need to be able to wiggle in and out of places. And also just from a budgetary standpoint, documentaries don't work on an endless money tree, so you have to be really tight with that money, especially when, like for us, we were going to do 80 interviews. It seemed like the first one we went into was Chuck asked me, he says, Allen, who do you want to interview first? And I said, well, let's do Carter, President Carter, because he's up there already. We don't know, he's at the end of the story, let's say. And so 2 weeks later, we're filming with Carter. And I was so happy that we had the opportunity to do that. But, when you look at it, the first time we went in, we took the full crew, the whole thing. And, and of course it was President Carter. You want to make sure you captured it all correctly. And then when we walked out of there, I sat down with my producers and a couple other people. I said, guys, we can't do that again. I mean, that's too many people, because we're going to go right through the budget in 30 days if we do it like that. So we just decided I was going to work extra hard and carry bags and make sure, and we went with a smaller crew, put a lot more pressure on me to make everybody, when you go into a situation, let's say, and you're filming with David Gilmour or Eric Clapton, it is really nice that you go in and you're very intimate with them. But the other part of it is that if you're the director, the question asker, the sound guy at times, right? The one thing is of the situation, so it's a tricky situation when you're changing lighting and, sound and all these things to make sure that everybody doesn't get lost in what you're doing. There you go.
So this project, Chuck Leavell, The Tree Man, that was 3 years in the making.
Yeah, for sure. Every bit of it. Chuck and I, the start of it was, I do a lot of commercials, and I was really looking probably 6 months before I did this project and signed up for it. I was really looking, I felt like I had done really everything that I could do in the commercial world. You're kind of producing all these high level commercials for Google Glass and Cessna and, other Super Bowl little things I was doing. So it just got to a spot where I was like, I'm ready to just kind of just be more of a storyteller. And I wanted to do that. And I had started off shooting some films, like little small documentaries at the very beginning. So, through that, you have a girlfriend who turns into your wife, and 3 kids later, she really liked the fact that we, had income. So, and I was getting the spot where I was like, okay, well, we were doing that. That's fine. But that's not what my love tank is not filled up. So I really started to write more. And, I produce, when I do a commercial, let's say for a national commercial, I probably write or produce almost 98% of everything that hits the screen. So sometimes they give me a little bit of a script, but a lot of times I'm even taking that and just elevating it visually, right? So it's easy for me to write. I've been doing it for a long time. So I just thought, well, here's 4 or 5 really good ideas. I'm going to make one of them, because if I usually say I'm going to do it, I'll follow through with it. And I really started to work on those scripts and kind of refine them. And while I was doing that, I was in Vegas shooting a commercial, and I had one night off. I looked on Polestar and I said, oh, who's playing tonight? I'll go watch a band or something. And I looked up and, there's the Rolling Stones, in Polestar. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I go, the Stones are in town. I have to call Chuck. Well, I had worked with Chuck probably 15 years prior to that moment. And I've known Chuck, I guess, going on 19, 20 years now. But we had worked together on this record. And the record was a guy named Eric Girardi. He's a blues rock guy, and he was out of my town. And I kind of had managed him and wanted him to expand his horizons, let's say, was from a 3-piece band to like, doing like what Chuck brings to the table, adding all the dynamics of what music is. And so through this conversation at this guy's store, he had a wine store, I said, why don't we get some horns or a piano player or somebody like that on this? Well, one of the guys that was standing in there he knew Chuck Leavell. And so from that moment, I said, dude, if that's the real guy, I mean, we need that guy, And so a few months later, we were in the studio recording in Memphis with Chuck Leavell. And I hit it off with Chuck. I knew Chuck at the time knew I was searching and not for whether I could get this band to the next level. And he was gracious about it. But he enlightened me on things that I really needed somebody to tell me at that time. And then, from that, I really focused my energies into making films and television commercials at that point. So I had eaten dinner with Chuck and called him through 15 years and kept in contact with him. And then obviously I called him, that was show day in Vegas, back to Vegas where we were currently. And I just thought, well, odds are he's not calling me. He's probably busy. You know what I mean? So, but he called me in 20 minutes and, he was like, hey, my brother, what's going on? I said, I'm in Vegas. And he goes, I'm in Vegas. I said, well, yeah, that's why I called, So we ended up talking for a little while. And the story goes is that Mick had laryngitis and they actually canceled the show. But that gave Chuck to figure this out. He called me 20 minutes later and we just had 20, 30 minutes to talk. Had we not had 20 or 30 minutes to talk that time, I don't know if this would have ever blossomed out with me being like kind of asked about it. But Chuck has said, I've been really thinking about wanting to do a documentary on myself. Would you have any interest in it? And at the time, I was thinking I must be the only guy. You know what I mean? Like, and then once you really pull the curtains back over time, you realize, man, like Scorsese would have done this film, And but at the time, you just are thinking, I really want this gig, because this fit all the love boxes. One, I knew the story was there. I knew he had the romance with Rose Lane. I knew about the tree farm. All the tractors, the trees all resonated with me. And I just thought I already could see the story. I was editing it in my head just already. And you looked at all those 80 people that are in it. on paper, and you think, wow, if I just had half of them, I've got myself one heck of a documentary. Also one heck of a ride, because I love music. I love all those people that he's played with and for, and those records. Everybody from any of the Stone stuff he's done, but the Black Crowes I love that record. For with Popper, and the Blues Travelers. It just it was like all my music that I loved. So I thought selfishly at the end of this, the worst thing is I come through and I have a great journey that I thought would be like 2 years, and I would be proud to put my name on it as long as I did a good job like I normally do. And it would be something, even if, because documentaries aren't like things you generally walk away with and are financially in a better place, right? So I went back and just thought, well, if I came out of this actually kind of checked the love box of me being the Hollywood director, because it puts me back in. I'd kind of oddly be attached to these Rolling Stones, because of Chuck. And I just thought, well, that wouldn't be a bad place for me, but most importantly, I just thought Chuck's story should be told. When you really look at his story, it's one of the greatest stories in rock and roll that's just never been told. And when you watch the film, I think most people are like, I had no idea, that this guy was that guy. I hear 5 out of 10 songs on the radio every day. And I think that was intriguing. And I also thought, looking at it, the component with him and the trees, and actually, not so much being like a crazy environmentalist, like, let's say, like where he's like, don't cut it down and don't do this or that. He's for that, he's for like using the forest, but also being responsible and planting more and taking care of it for the next guy. But he was also actually living it, not just going to these press conferences and talking about it. He's actually doing 4,000 acres the right way. And that's a lot of land, and it's crazy. So I just loved it. I thought, if I'm going to spend two or 3 years of my life on a film, I wanted the guy to be worthy. I didn't want it to be a rock star that was, down and out and all these kind of things. I just wanted something more positive at the time. I didn't know at the time, 4 years ago, though, when we did it, I really didn't think that half of California was going to be on fire. We didn't know that. So it's kind of weird that the timing of what we had created is a good topic to talk about now with maybe some of the things that are going on out there. So it's been a great ride.
And you have, how many hours did you shoot? And you also edited as well as direct?
Yeah, I did. I shot probably, 90 something percent, 94.5% of everything you see, which I thought it needed that. I didn't want to cut away to old footage all the time. I didn't want it to make it feel like a traditional documentary. I wanted it to be a little more film cinematic vibe. And I wanted it to be special like Chuck is. I wanted us to have a few things that weren't normally in documentaries. So some of those scenes that you see, like even right out of the gate where we come through the trees and then we see him, on the piano. To me, that kind of sets you up that this is not going to be your normal documentary. And we have other scenes where he goes from the house to the garden, and just that whole 73-foot hydro crane pulling back and 8 guys working the crane and then up and over and into the garden, let's say. Those scenes really needed to be there to make it special. Cinematically, his house is beautiful wherever you're going to put a camera, but those movements kind of really add something. And I think when you look at it, I was able to ask other artists like Eric Church, let's say, I really waited a long time to get Eric, over a year and something before they finally said, come and do the interview. I filmed all the sizzle reels, let's say, and a lot of the hero cards and photography, but I make a lot of these films for David Letterman's IndyCar team, which is Bobby Rahal and David Letterman. And so through that, I'm at the Indy 500, and then Eric Church says, "Hey, can you come to Nashville?" And he gives me this one date. Well, it's the date he's doing right when I'm filming everything for Ray Hall leading up to the 500. So I had to go on a private plane down for a few hours to do this interview. And Eric Church is doing the very first ever full show in the stadium, the Nissan Stadium in Nashville. So he's got a one night only where he's playing like 4 hours, and he says, "Come down, do the interview." So of course, we had to take him up on it. So we went down. I met Eric. It was great. He's got a guy that takes care of him named Marshall, who's awesome. And of course, his wife, Catherine, Eric's wife, Catherine. So they came in. I did the interview with them. It went really well. I remember Catherine saying like something like, "Hey, this has been the best interview, I think we've ever done," or something. And I said, "Well, that's good. And thank you." And they invited us back to the show the next night. And I said, "Well, I had one of my doctor buddies flew down with me, and then the pilot." And I said, "Hey guys," I said, we got to get back. They're taking me back to the Indy 500. I got to get back. I said, but I did look at the calendar, and I said, there's a date in Grand Rapids, in October. And I said, maybe we come to that. And then she goes, "Oh yeah, you guys can come back." And of course I said, "Well, now hang on a second, hang on a second, because if we go back and we tell our wives that we're going to the Eric Church show without them, we're this isn't going to go over well." So they ended up saying, "Yeah, bring them all back." So luckily, the pilot's a good friend of mine, Brian, and he supersized us on the next plane that we went back to Grand Rapids. We took the wives. We were heroes because, of course, we had the meet and greet with Eric. And a lot of those guys were, the wives were Eric Church fans. They just had never been in his presence. So Eric and his people took great care of us. And it was through that, just building those relationships, that the one thing I really wanted to have was I really wanted to be on the stage, with Chuck somewhere. And that won't happen with the Stones, that won't happen with certain artists. But Eric, we knew he was taking this really unique voice in the film. And he does play other people's music during his concert, which is kind of refreshing to see his spin on it. Well, he likes the Allman Brothers, and he had Chuck out before. So we basically kind of in a weird way reenacted that whole experience that they had done one time before, like a couple years prior. And so we were in Manchester, New Hampshire, and that's where Chuck's daughter lives. And so he sat in. Eric said, whatever Allen wants, let him have it, which thank goodness, because I wanted to be there for the rehearsals and sound check. And you get to see that in the film, which is, interesting, because there's not a lot of people that give you that, where you actually see them kind of really making music, like how is this going to happen tonight? And then you see how quick Chuck just turns it over, like boom, boom, and now I'm on. And
are you struggling to conceive? You have options, and at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group, we'll make sure you have the guidance and support you need. PREG is known for individualized fertility care that's unique to every patient. We take the time to provide a reassuring and empowering experience because we believe that you deserve nothing less. Let us help you on your journey to parenthood. Visit us at pregonline.com to learn more. Get the guidance and support you need at Piedmont Reproductive Endocrinology Group.
For the best TV viewing experience, witness the coziest maroons, the most vibrant and brightest moons, the eeriest and darkest tombs, and radiant and vivid hues in any type of room with the Neo QLED and OLED TVs by Samsung. We're supposed to say Samsung, but that didn't rhyme, so you're welcome. Samsung, more wow than ever.
Eric Church, and the band he's got surrounding him are these magical, awesome players. And they just hit it out of the park that night playing this. And they're Allman Brothers, Ain't Wasting the Time is awesome. And that was just cool because here's Chuck, who was in the band. Now he's playing with Church. It just was this cool moment. And when you see it on the big 25-foot, theater, you really feel like you're in the concert. It's pretty cool. So So Eric Church, we will be buying him a lot of lunches throughout time for this though. But that was really a big fun thing that we did in the movie.
I love how you captured that, and you got the sound check, and he was going from a G to a C on the keyboard and working with Eric and trying to get it down. You really got that raw moment there, and you showed the nuts and bolts of how some of these songs came together with Chuck, like Drops of Jupiter from Train. And I was like, I didn't know that, man. You know, that piano, it's just thundering. It's like, you really do show that in the documentary. I so highly recommend people watch the documentary. What was that editing process like? How many hours were you holed up in your basement or your studio just trying to put this together?
Yeah, so let's reverse how it came into the very end. My kids play soccer, and these little turkeys are pretty good. So they had qualified to go to Barcelona, Spain to play soccer, like at Messi's, Camp Nou and some of these other places. And so we went over for 10 days. We came back. I left the very next morning at like 6 a.m. on a flight to go to Macon. And I was coming into the revival of the Capricorn revival that they were doing, which was to launch the old studio and recording studio. And they had this show with all these superheroes that had recorded there that were still living. And I go in there and I shot, like with Blackberry Smoke and those guys that were there singing on, And so then I had to shift gears. I came home and I had all this footage that you're dealing with in 6 and 8K, and I had kind of been prepping it a little bit, but I knew that we had qualified to be in the Sedona Film Festival. And there was a deadline, right? So what I start doing is I basically am loading in, having all this footage unwrapped. You want to know how much time I had? Well, I was filming every 2 weeks. I would film 2 weeks out of every month for a little over probably 2.5 years, right? So I have 80 people. Every interview was a minimum of 30 minutes. Some of them, like John Mayer, might have been 47, or John Popper, they might have been closer to an hour. Bonnie Raitt, who told me, hey, Allen, I don't have a lot to say. This will probably take 10 minutes. I did an hour with Bonnie. So, you know what I mean? So I can drag it out of them, but I also can guide them because I know what I want them to do. And so some of those comments that Bonnie was giving me might have been relationship based, because I wanted a woman's perspective of Chuck. There's not a ton of women in rock and roll. So the ones that we have to help balance out the woman's view, the softness that they bring, and help tell the story that Rose Lane is Chuck's wife in a sense, right? So once you squeezed all that together, I want to say that the hours I probably have are somewhere. I mean, they're in the thousands somewhere. I had over 1.6 terabytes of data. I mean, as you do the math, so a lot. And when I finally get through the holiday Christmas season, let's say, and then I was finally ready to cut, where I kind of was like, what I do is there's people do different ways. I'm very visual, so I can remember almost everything I've done and shot. I can remember loosely the conversations. I might have to go back, but I'll remember I know there was something like this. I'm going to use that, right? And I can go to it and find it. So I take these little note cards, and I had written out kind of a script basically, right? But then I take the note cards and I write just the 30,000 foot view of what's happening. And then I put these out, and then they kind of go from the entire floor to a wall. And I just keep moving them around, and I can just feel the pace of the film in my head, so I'm feeling it, how it's going to transition. I'm thinking about the songs. We have 110 music cues, which are songs, or partial of songs in this film. That's unheard of, right? Yeah. You have to have it because it's Chuck Leavell. That's his story. So it has to be in there. And so as we go through those 110 music cues and the editing process, I started kind of just almost 27th or 8th. And I edited the entire film in 6 weeks, And when it got done, I didn't show Chuck. I showed him the day before I left. I was able to push out one test. I pushed it out to show him because I'm going to a film festival with it, right? And he watched it and he loved it. And so from that, I end up taking one more day to do the full render on the film and make it into these special little files called DCPs, which the theater plays, right? And they take forever and they're archaic and they're always things go wrong with them. Well, I was leaving. I had to leave for the airport at 4 a.m. to catch a 6 a.m. flight. And when I get up at 4 a.m, I was going like this, please be done. Well, the thing had finished rendering an hour before I left. So, and it was on OneDrive and that was it. That's all we had. So we went out there, they loaded it. Luckily, there was nothing wrong with it. And I did have a QuickTime backup, which wouldn't have been as clean and pretty, but the DCP played fine. And then we ended up winning the People's Choice Award at the Sedona Film Festival. We beat out like 163 films or something. And there was 2 Academy Award nominated films in it. One of which was Sea of Shadows, that was like a Leonardo DiCaprio film that he was involved with. So we were kind of like, yeah, like we competed with the big boys, so that made me feel really good. When we got to Sedona, it actually was crazy. I'm waiting to go in to watch the film. My wife's there, a couple of producers that were on the film. And, I'm standing there and like the theater gets like really full of all these people. And they were like, they were all there to see Chuck Leavell, the Tree Man, which I was like, okay, cool. Cause this is like a 1 o'clock show or something. And, I see this guy walking towards me and I'm like, of course I'm like, I remember who that guy is. That's Leonard Maltin. So the film critic, Leonard Maltin's walking towards me. I see his badge on, and I thought, I should say hi to him, cause I just thought he was a part of the film fest, and I said, hey, Leonard. And he talked to me for a minute and I said, what are you here to see? He goes, oh, I'm here to see the Tree Man. And I go, no. I go, no, what are you really here to see? He goes, no, I'm here to see the Tree Man. I thought he'd read my badge, And he said, no, he goes, I'm going to watch it. He goes, I'm really interested in this. I'm like, awesome. I go, dude, that's my film, that's my film. So lo and behold, his wife's standing right behind me. And I sat there and I thought, well, I'm going to carry in. I said, why don't I carry the popcorn in and sit you guys down early? I sit them down early. I go in there. They stay for the whole film. They do the Q&A. And I just thought, man, if Leonard Maltin reviewed this film, that'd be like the cat's meow, man. After you don't expect like the very first time you're in a theater that Leonard Maltin is going to show up or something. It's like you didn't write that in, So it ended up they connected me with Leonard via email through the film festival, and then I sent him some stuff, and then he never reviewed it. So I was like, what? I'm like, well, okay, whatever, So, but I was, at least the nice part was I got to meet him and appreciate that part of it. But I was hoping to get a review.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. I mean, I'm sure people are on tight schedules. Their lives are incredibly busy. Who knows what else he had to do? But
tight schedules. But I mean, like sometimes I feel like maybe a guy in his shoes maybe doesn't like to review documentaries, but I just felt like it was too coincidental that he was there, I was there, the film wins. The festival director was coming up to us going, I just saw Leonard Maltin. He said he loved your film. He talked about it for 20 minutes. And I said, I couldn't have asked for anything more, man. That's why you come to a film festival, So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe down the road we'll review another one, or maybe we'll review this one. I don't know. Maybe you never know. I mean, I still think, and knock on wood, that Chuck has a chance at the next Grammy noms for best musical film. I mean, that would be that. I think he deserves it. I think the film is strong enough that it should be in one of those top 5 films. And, hopefully that'll happen for him in the film. and then maybe that might open up some opportunities for other reviews at that time or something, but I really feel when you get a guy that's that magical, and the base of the Academy people are older as a whole. I'm hoping when they see Chuck Leavell, most of them know who he is. And, sure, he's going to be probably fighting up against the Beyoncés and Taylor Swifts and these kind of people, right? But, Linda Ronstadt won this last go around. So maybe, maybe there's an opportunity for Chuck to sneak in, but, hopefully just a nomination would be amazing for us and the film and Chuck. And I think, when you look at a body of work and you want to celebrate like a human being, he's like a Pulitzer Prize kind of a moment. If you think about it, right. He's lived it, he's done it. And, I really feel like he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on his own merits. You could name 3 guys. Well, those 3 guys should be in there, and he's one of them on his own merits.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely, he should be in there. I know it's political and it's really hard to get people into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he's so deserving of that. You really show it in the documentary. What was it like trying to get all these interviews together and lugging the equipment? You have a really good story about how you went out to see David Gilmour and how you captured him. That's a really fascinating story.
Yeah, Gilmour was great, man. I love the guy. I think I was always a David Gilmour fan. I always liked his energy and what he brought to things and his creativity. As a director, as you go through and you work with anyone, they take a little bit of you and you take a little bit of them. And being around all these people at this high of a level with their creativeness, it just brings more and more. It's like adding fuel to what you do, and you take little bits and pieces of it. So with Gilmour, it started was I kept asking Chuck, what are you going to do? I know Stones are going to go on tour. What are you doing leading up to it? What can we show that, you're Chuck Leavell, where are you going? And he goes, well, I've got that thing that I'm going to be going to in London prior to hitting over in Germany with the Stones. And I'm going to do the Pompeii premiere. And at the time I'm just thinking, hey, no big deal. Call up, Gilmour, let's just get access, right? You don't really think, you just got a carrot that's hanging right in front of your mouth. You don't really know what you're asking for is really a big ask, So of course I said, well, Chuck, you think Gilmour would let us there? I'd like to see you. Like, what's that like for Chuck Leavell? When you do a premiere, what does that mean for you? What happens? Get a little behind the scenes energy there. So anyways, he called up Gilmour. Gilmour says, yeah, bring it. Come on in. I'm thinking, that's no big deal. Well, then when you get there, you realize there's no other film crews. There's nobody there but us. And it's me and an assistant because we're trying to save money. And of course, we get there early. We already had Chuck mic'd up before he walked upstairs. And so when he walks up, we're able to kind of cherry pick anybody close to him's audio. And I just remember I got cameras pretty much ready. I go wheels up, and Gilmour looks at me, and he looks at me like, hey, boy, you ready? I'm going to go talk to Chuck. And of course I give him the nod, like, let's go, man. And so I tried to be like in the film, as you see, I'm kind of like a little fly on the wall in there, and I'm picking up this conversation. What you don't know is that, and neither did David, he doesn't know that I'm really going to put a giant focus on the forestry side of what Chuck's going to do. But he knows Chuck's into forestry. So he walks up to Chuck, which I have my cell phone here, but he walks up to Chuck, and he's got his cell phone, and he could have said, I'm the great David Gilmour. I'm the great the Pompeii. It's so awesome. Remember being on tour. Instead, he walks up, and this is a testament to David Gilmour. He walks up and he shows Chuck a cherry bench that he made from a cherry tree off his property. And I have a mic in my a headphone in my ear, or an earpiece in my ear. And so I'm hearing the wireless come back, and I'm thinking, it's a little noisy, and I'm thinking, did he just say cherry bench? I go, oh my gosh, if he said cherry bench and he has a cherry bench, I'm just thinking in my head, this is awesome. We couldn't have asked him for that. So ends up, we get through the night. It was great. Everything film awesome. I had seen that part that Chuck had done on Comfortably Numb they had like an edited down version of the film, and but that was what they closed it out with. And I thought, oh my! I go, we need some footage out of this thing. They just had a big budget to shoot it, and Gavin Elder did a great job putting that together. And obviously the music's nuts with the best players, just crazy. It's Pink Floyd in a sense, but David Gilmour's version of it in a way, right? So we ended up agreeing before all this that I would film Gilmour at his private studio, which was 2 hours south of London in this little beach town. And so we get there, and it's like there's this bunker somewhere that you think like, that looks like somebody that like changes the light bulbs comes out of, you know what I mean? Like it kind of goes into the ground. And so I was like, well, that must be it, because that's something I expect from Gilmour. That's like what I'm thinking. So we went in, his assistant met us there, and then David came shortly an hour later after we were set up. So, we're doing the interview, and you see that's where we're doing his interview in there with all those guitars. And we're in the studio side, and we do the interview, and it's kind of interesting because he showed up with bare feet. And of course I'm thinking, should I have taken my shoes off? Because I'm thinking the guy, he must be a neat freak or something. Well, then you come to find out he just lives in the building next door, and then we're at the beach and he just walked over, So I was like, okay, glad, I didn't mess his place up or anything. So we ended up, David spent a good hour and a half with me there, but during that process, we brought up the cherry bench, and I just said, man, that was really cool that you did that last night. That really says something about you. And I'm thinking I'm on day 2 now with Gilmour. How do I get to day 3? Right. How do I get the Christmas card or whatever? So I said, well, listen, I'd really like to film this cherry bench. Where, is it close by? Where is it? Is the tree still in the woods? What can we do? And he said,
At Grainger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day, and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry, with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders, all backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products right when you need them. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
He said, no, it's far away from here. And I thought, okay. It's like, well, I'll go one step further. I said, well, listen, I'm coming back in a month. I already had on the books to do Eric Clapton. So I said, well, David, if I come back with Eric Clapton, let's film that tree. Are you open to it? He said, yeah. He goes, why don't you call me a week before you come back, and we'll see where I'm at. Now, at the time, I thought it's just going to be, me. I and maybe an assistant, but it ended up when I came back, David showed up at his house. It was his personal house. And it's like a kingdom, it's like amazing. It's exactly where you think David Gilmour would live. And I'm sitting at his kitchen table. And he walked in, and I'm sitting with a girl that handles food preparation. She's like almost like a Martha Stewart, probably to him and to the property. A beautiful lady, and she was making something that smelled fantastic. And David walked in, and he yelled, "Hiya!" They say "Hiya" over there. "Hiya, Allen." And I was like, "Hey, David, good to see you." And so, anyways, we ended up talking for a bit, and I had just, of course I was in London, so I had just bought some fancy boots over there and had them on, and he looked down and he goes, "Hey, you're going to have to change out of those." So he gave me his waders, and we walked out in the woods, and I walked, we spent, 3 or 4 hours out in the woods. We walked around. He showed me the trees. He showed me where he cut down the tree. Of course, you see some of this in the film. He'll, talks about how he's planted over 20,000 trees, on this property. It's all gorgeous, by the way. And at the end, we sat there on the way back, just talking about things that interest us. And he's really interested in flight and had some airplanes and stuff. And we go right by his apple tree, and he grabs this apple off his tree and he took a bite off of it. And then he looked at it and then he handed it to me, just like, "Hey dude, take a bite." And, as an editor, and from the States with everybody's got you always paranoid about everything. I literally looked at it and I edited a very quick sequence in my head that was kind of like, all right, David Gilmour, apple, crash, screeching wheels. Does this have worms? Will I be okay? Has it been sprayed? And then it comes back to, well, David Gilmour just handed me an apple. I think I'm going to take a bite. And so I took a big chomp off of it, and gave a couple more bites, gave it back to David. He nailed one and chucked it, and we just kept on walking, And so that was pretty memorable night to do that. But those scenes that you see in the film, that you see David striking the match, and you see the actual bench and the fireplace, that's actually in his house. That's his private, that's probably like his most personal private area of his house, right? I mean, so the fact that he loved Chuck that much, that he was willing to open up his self like that, which has never really been done, right? So, I mean, I think that's a testament to Chuck. And if you've noticed when you watch the film, a lot of people had me at their house or their personal space, because they knew that's what it required to make this thing for Chuck. And of course, we'll still do, some people would be in the studio, but that's okay. You needed to see that too, but a lot of it was very personal stuff,
How did you shoot the Stones? They seem to be in all different locations. That must have been over a long period of time. You got 4 guys. It must have been way far apart.
Well, we were asking pretty much a couple months in, like, when would it happen? Will you guys make sure it happens? Because we wanted to know, are they going to agree to it or not? And so, Chuck has a great relationship with all the guys, and they love him to pieces. But, as with all these big celebrities or actors, they're taxed all the time with so much stuff and so many requests. And there's a bazillion documentaries and these kind of things. But Chuck, in my opinion, was really a worthy guy to let them shine a light on this guy's story, So I'm really happy that they all did it. The Stones were great. When they finally told me that we were going to do it, I literally had a week's notice, and I had to be in Copenhagen. And so when they say go to Denmark, you're thinking awesome. But when you get to Denmark, everything is 4,000 times more expensive. It's the most expensive place anywhere. So they have the Danish kroner, and you get there, and I had to rent a giant, like a banquet room to film them in. So originally I was going to have all the 4 principals, and it was going to come down that, we were going to get, Charlie was coming first, and then Ronnie, and then Keith, and then Mick. So Ronnie came down, Charlie came down. And when he came down, the handlers, let's say, of the Stones kind of had made me set back a little further than what I would normally like. And because I use like a two-way mirrored box thing that's so they actually see me in like a reflected mirror, and the camera sits behind the mirror. And that's why they all, when you look at them in the interviews, like everyone really seems like they're really looking at you as an audience member, and they're not like, the pupils aren't watering around, and they really feel present. It's because they actually really are talking to me in a mirror, and then you just capture that. And it's a little trick I learned a long time ago that I've been using. So when they came down, Charlie looked at me and says, Allen, he goes, why are you sitting so far away? And I just kind of just turned my head very slowly to the handlers, and I kind of put my hands up and they just kind of go, yeah, move a little closer. And thank goodness, because I moved as close as I normally would before somebody said no. And then we got the rest of the interview. So I will say this about the Stones. I have to say something I thought. I've interviewed lots of celebrities through the years, and actors and sports people and these things. But what they did is every time one of them came down from their suite and came down to the room we were in, they would come, and then their manager or their security guy would say, come out and talk to Charlie or talk to Ronnie or talk to Keith. And they would do that before you came in the room, before they would walk in the room, because they wanted that little bit of connection with you prior to walking into the environment. And I thought that was really a smart thing. I'm like, well, no, now I know why you're the Rolling Stones, because that's just something about their level of, professionalism and detail. I really took that. So we got through Keith, and that line at the very end of the film that you hear Keith say, and he's talking about Chuck, right? Yeah. That is probably one of the most epic lines I've ever seen Keith give or do. But I had worked with Keith about 30, 35 minutes to that point, and there was a pace to which he would go grab a cigarette or have a drink. And I could feel it coming again, and I had been saving it and kind of got to that spot where I know he's probably tired of me asking him questions, and he's getting tired because I'm on Chuck Leavell for quite a long time. And I could sense that I should strike now with this little soft question about the gentleman comment, and just, I think that's one thing that Robert, me being an older director now in my life, I was able just to sit there and be quiet and give him the floor in uncomfortable silence, let him keep going with the performance. Where I think if I were 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I would have felt that uncomfortable silence and tried to fill the time. And I didn't have to do that. So I sat there and just let it play out. And then as soon as he was done, I said, and you don't hear it in the film, but I say, and that's why you're Keith Richards. And the whole room exploded in laughter and applause and all this. And we just knew, I knew as soon as I heard that line, I knew that was going to be the close to my film. I knew it as soon as I heard it. And I've always, kept it there and used it in the promos and in the film. So Keith was great. And then Mick, because they were on tour at that moment, it's always a sensitive thing with vocally, should he come down and talk for a few minutes or not? And I think it was just one of those where he just was like, hey, I need one more time. So they said, well, he'll do it after the tour, because they were towards the near the end of the tour. They had a month left. But I thought in the back of my head, oh my goodness, what if we don't get Mick Jagger? I mean, we've got everybody but him. That'd be weird. And so I kept my fingers crossed. Well, lo and behold, Mick has one of his managers call me and says, hey, can you meet Mick in a few weeks? We'll meet you out in Beverly Hills. So I went to Beverly Hills, stayed at the Montage Hotel out there, an all-suite hotel. That's one good thing about this documentary. It wasn't like you were staying at the Knights Inn or something. You know what I mean? Everything was a 5-star hotel because you needed to interview the guys in the hotel. And so it was like a little bit of a requirement that they would, come to you, let's say. So I stayed there, but when I got there, they upgraded me to the presidential suite. So here I'm on this floor where I've got 4 balconies, curtains that are all electronic, the whole thing. And you just thought, wow, man, this is a good lifestyle, to be a rock star, not a bad gig. And so Mick came in, he's got, his team of people, his entourage, but it is funny, when you stay in a 5-star hotel, because they always have doorbells to your room, and so when your doorbell rings, you open your door, hey, it's kind of like an Oprah moment, you're kind of like, hey, there's Mick. Hey, Mick, what's going on, man? They come in, you do the interview. And so, yeah, the Stones were great. And honestly, the one thing about the Stones is, they helped with some of the footage. Like I would say, I want to get shots like this. And we kind of had to work through their crews to get some of the shots we wanted. But they were great. And the Stones really helped step up to get us the footage that we wanted. Of course, I tried to press them to get onto the, onto the stage, but to no avail. I fell on the sword on that one, but we got so much stuff from them. It was you can't tell Chuck's story from 1983 with the Stones without them being a part of it. Just too cool.
Totally integral. How tough was it with all the music licensing with the film? Do you have to go through lots of legal channels? How does that all work?
Yeah, man, let me just tell you, music licensing is like the least favorite thing in the world. I mean, that's why you hear most documentaries have not the right music, or they have faux music in there. It's because everybody wants a lot of money for the songs. The benefit that we had was on this one it was Chuck Leavell. That was the magic word. Everybody wanted to support him. And you have to remember, Chuck has given all these guys music. They've made a lot of money off Chuck Leavell. And it's not like he's an owner in, Drops of Jupiter. He's a paid performer, let's say, right? So same with the Stones. I mean, he's not a principal. He's a working guy. So that being said, he still does well, but the stratospheric paydays don't come. And so that's what's nice about it is that everybody respected Chuck so much that we literally got a large percentage of the music came in gratis. Which it definitely brought a tear to some of our eyes at times when we heard who it was. And, it was just amazing that they did that for Chuck. And notoriously some people that are really hard to do anything. And this would be like, say, an artist had sold off their publishing a long time ago. They don't really own it. You still have to go and ask for it. Well, when they heard it was Chuck, they said, hey, we can't even charge you for that guy. So, I mean, that just goes to show you, he's the magic man.
These people really pulled through for you. That's great. Just the name itself will get you through that.
Yeah.
I love how in the film you go through about the pronunciation of the name. I have that with my last name too. It's like, I'm Niebel, not Nabel.
Yeah.
I like that with Chuck Leavell. It sounds so much better, and I like how you went through that. What was it like setting up all these interview shots? I love how you shot Chris Robinson per se and John Mayer. How does that come through? Is it just logistics, or do you have a vision in mind when you set somebody down for an interview shot?
Yeah, some of those guys, you're really improvising on the road. So if, for instance, I could work you through like Chris Robinson. He was playing in Kentucky, like in Louisville. And that was like literally, that was where we shot, was actually out back where the trash was. And then we just literally pulled stuff out of the frame. And I said, well, this will actually be cool, So the one thing I would encourage people to do is I do, I'm a still photographer as well. And through Getty, like they, give you this fancy name like Contour by Getty. But it just means you're like one of the celebrity photographer kind of people. But if people went to like my website, allenfarst.com, you'll see these stills that I've shot with everybody throughout the whole time. Because I just kept taking stills after the interview. Because I thought, I've done a lot of that for Maxim Magazine and other people through time. But I thought at the end of every interview, I just thought I'm going to take this picture because they're probably going to be in such a good spirit that I'm going to get this really cool portrait from everybody along the way, which it ended up happening. So those scenes that I was in, I was looking for texture to not only serve the film, but also to be like, that's going to be a great still shot, as well. So with Chris, it was like that. With Eric Church, we were actually, we built that whole scene he's in. That was, they had all these flags on the tour in like these big, huge cases. And we started having their crew come in because we had like an hour to build a set. And we moved lights in and behind him and dropped them. I mean, we asked a lot of those guys to move things that day, and we got everything in frame to look nice. President Carter, we lit the flags, and we were at his presidential library. But I was looking for really, boxed in, looking flat, cinematic shots. But every time we went to another one, they felt connected because of the style that we shot it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed it.
What was the motivation? How was it like shooting in Chuck and Rose's place? I like how you framed them as well too. What's the motivation? Because I noticed the headspace with Chuck and Rose. That must be her chair or something. I get that sense that that's her resting place there.
Yes, yeah, right. So with Chuck's place, they have a main house. They have like these buildings they've built on the property. So they have a lodge that's out there. They have horse barns. So where we were filming with Rose Lane specifically was in the horse barn. Above the horse barn, she has this work area, and she paints. And she is a really awesome painter. And so we filmed the interview up there. When we walked over, you're looking for things.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Anyway, things look like, that chair was so unique. And then you're looking at that and you're going, wow, what if we move that from way over in that corner with stuff on it and pull that all the way to the other side of the room, and then we'll see everything behind. And then the chair was kind of see-through. It just, you have 30 seconds to make those decisions, and you have to live with them. So we did that there with the cooking scenes in the house. I mean, those are, you can be on a movie set and never have a set that looks that nice, right? And so I went in there and I said, look, I really want to see how it is when I'm here with you guys, which is you guys do cook and do things together. And I want to see this kitchen. The kitchen is like amazing. It's like a postcard in there. And, of course, they were trying to clean stuff up and the spices. And I said, no, just leave it all as is. I go, it looks great. I go, I wouldn't tidy anything up. And so, we just look for those moments. And then you look for those moments too, like, even though like there might be a scene where like Rose Lane was in the kitchen and it was kind of like a reverse shot in the kitchen from where I was, but you see her and I add a little bit of a dribble of a cue, a music cue that comes in, and then she's putting that into the oven, right? Those are shots that I get after they don't know I'm really filming anymore. There are a lot of times I roll camera just to get something that feels supernatural. And so I'll roll camera. And a lot of times I might even tell them like, yeah, I'm setting the camera, or I'll just say something. And then I'll try to find a moment in there that's either some kind of dialogue or something that's set up, and then you find out that was actually probably one of the cooler moments that you had, was the one that you didn't really stage 100%, But Rose Lane and Chuck have been around cameras and things through a long period of time. So Chuck is on point. I mean, he knows what you're going to do, where you're going to go. I tell him, he knows how to get me in and out of things. For me, it's sometimes just, I did tricks of things where I tried to make him uncomfortable at times, obviously to get him to get emotional about trees, and to get him emotional about Rose Lane in the film are really, really, really important moments to help us know how much this guy cares about these things. And his passion for his wife of 47, which is now 48 years. You need that. You need that guy willing to go there with you, and when you're doing a long interview, most of those interviews that I would do with Chuck were about probably an hour and 10 minutes a set. So those moments really come towards the end, and then we take a break. But, it's kind of like it's like you're playing chess when you're doing interviews, with people like that. Eventually I want this from them. Now will I roll them into that one moment where they feel free enough to let it go? And I was really, really thankful that we got that with Chuck, because it really, I just think that really just makes the film.
Yeah, I love how you captured Chuck and Rose Lane going to the H&H restaurant in Macon, and going through Macon and the old Allman Brothers house, which is fascinating. I recommend anybody to go through the Allman Brothers house. It's just amazing. Capricorn. Yeah,
it's really a time warp when you go to Macon, and it's still all there, because with Capricorn Studios opening back up, if you're a band, you can go in there and record in this place where all these records were cut. The mojo's there, and if that doesn't get you inspired, nothing will. So you also have the big house, which when you walk in there, you just know they were there. You can go walk around, you see the rooms, the bedrooms, the people that work there are awesome and friendly. And then of course you see all this memorabilia. But I really, really enjoyed going to the H&H restaurant where they were. And to also know that at that time, Mama Louise, the bands that were in Macon at that time really were cross-pollinated racial, and I think music, what's so great about music is music brings us all together. You know what I mean? From all walks of life, all races, it's really a common thread. And the only other thing that does that is sports. You know what I mean? Sports, it forces communities to play like, hey, we're going to play these guys or that guy. And when you come together, you learn there's different cultures, there's different people that live in different parts of the town, but you come together and you experience that. And I just thought it was really warm that probably Mama Louise had this restaurant back in the day. I would probably gather she was probably not just as poor as they were, because she had probably, as most people that work in restaurants, it's a labor of love. And she was willing to feed these hippie dudes that probably a lot of people were like, those are hippie guys, right? And she was willing to feed them. But the story goes is that Mama Louise, they come back, they almost come back, and Greg, and they come back and they say, hey, we're going to take you to a show one night. Well, lo and behold, they actually put her on their private jet and take her to a show. And she didn't really know that was going to happen. So I think the memory serves me. I think they did that like 4 or 5 times. Maybe they took her to a show like that. And I just think, man, that's pretty neat. The things came full circle for the band, and then she was able to help them. And, Dickie Betts, obviously telling that story, acting like her with that voice is crazy. Probably the craziest thing about filming there that day is The day before was the day I did the interview with Chuck in the lodge, when you see him when he's wearing the flannel and all that. So I had asked him about Mama Louise, and he said, well, she's old. She doesn't own the H&H anymore. So she probably, she's gotten up there, and I guess maybe her communication wasn't what it once was from a memory standpoint. And I said, yeah, okay, fine. So I kind of just, I kind of let it go. But when we walked in there and we filmed, and we had filmed the scene of Chuck and Rosaline eating, and we kind of see the stuff on the walls. I had let them kind of finish their breakfast and was just picking off some shots on the walls on the far side. And I hear in my, earpiece, once again, I hear like, Mama Louise just walked in the door. Mama Louise is here. Mama Louise. So my assistant's telling me this. I look over. All of those shots you see are all in real time. I mean, that's literally what's happening as she walks in. There is that is a natural, warm feeling of them together. It was not reenacted, and it was totally unexpected. And that's what's weird about the magicness of Chuck Leavell. It's like she could have walked in a million other times, and we would have never seen her. But we're only there for 20 minutes on one day. She hasn't been in there in forever, and it's the day we happen to be filming. I mean, that's just like weird. It's like a destiny weird thing, and we've had that. We've experienced it, let's say, several times on the film. We had the one morning where we were going to do the crane shot, and we had spent all this money. We felt like Elon Musk. We're going to this, Mars with what we're spending to bring this crane in from Atlanta. And the forecast was just supposed to be overcast and really crappy the whole day. Well, we woke up the next morning, and it was this beautiful day with pocketed clouds, and the sun was out. And I looked at Chuck and I said, this is because of you, man. I mean, this is meant to be, because there's no other reason why the weather changed and we have now nice weather other than somebody is looking out for you like normal. So he does have a magical presence about him.
You have beautiful drone shots in there. You're a real expert at that, and framing and using the drone, and how you shot Chuck singing the Stokely Carmichael song, Georgia on My Mind. It's just so sweet.
Yeah, it's good. I had during that time, I do a lot of the drone stuff, and then AJ Rickard Epstein also worked the drone as well. And we actually the morning of, you're the first one I ever told us to. So we started off in the morning, and we have a few drones, and I had one and AJ had one, and I said, well, hey, I'll just put mine up in the air real quick. I want to know where that crane's going to come through, and I want to see that vantage point before they pull it in, so we'd save a little time. Anyways, I throw my drone up in the air, and it's just one of those DJI Inspire ones at the time. But we go up, and these things notoriously have, if they have a cold battery, they'll just like drop. Well, I had a cold battery signal that was going off, so I kind of ran it. I thought I was like maybe heating it up or something, and so then I popped it up in the air. I get about 45, 60 in there, and this here go, and I go, uh-oh, and the whole thing came down and smashed on the ground. So we went down to one helicopter, one drone for the rest of the shoot that weekend. So, but yeah, I highly recommend using warm batteries when you go to fly something. But
that's that location shoot. Me in journalism, which I've been in for over 30 years now, going on location shoots can be challenging in real time, like you did at the Captain Planet Foundation. That's always tough with sound too. I know it's tough. I love Julian Lennon and how he does photography and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And gosh, the sound is so tough to do. I understood it very well, but gosh, when I had to deal with a noisy room like that, it just insane.
Yeah, that was the hard part is we were at the end of the night. I was dealing with a little bit of a camera issue at the same time, and also trying to work through that and an audio issue with a mic. And so it was so dang noisy with the secondary, but there was nothing I could do. And I just had to use it. And it's also, Jillian was so warm and nice. I mean, he's a very nice guy. And he sings like he should be on tour. I don't know why he doesn't play more, because that was the first time in 10 years the guy had ever really played. And I'm like, dude, you're so good. Just keep writing music and putting it out. It's like he's actually really good. And it also helps that, you think of his dad. That's a warm memory. But outside of that, he's actually really good. You know what I mean? Like, he has a presence on stage. And you can tell he's lived in a fishbowl forever. You know what I mean? You can tell that, but he still made time to work with me, work with Chuck, and say those nice things into the film. He didn't have to do. I asked him at the end, after he felt really comfortable, that I said, man, this is my only shot. If he's going to give me some, it's now or never. And because we didn't really have that one cleared, let's say, beforehand. And he graciously said, yeah, man, let's do it right here. And I said, okay, good. And so we ended up doing it. But man, what a night. And when you think about Chuck being there at Planet Hollywood, or Captain Planet, sorry, with Captain Planet and Chuck being there, it's also like that full circle moment for Chuck once again. Here he's lived this crazy life, and here's this other guy that's lived this crazy life, and Ted Turner is at the end. That's his last public appearance. His family's there. They're singing songs to him. It's a very special night for everyone. And there's Chuck Leavell, like Forrest Gump, sitting right next to where, the action is. He is literally right next to Ted Turner. It only could happen to Chuck. I mean, who else would this happen to, So it was really, really, really a neat moment to be at. It was one of those, I didn't know what we were going to get. Some of these things you just kind of get, like, I'm going into this environment. I don't really know what I'm going to get. And you just have to feel it, and feel where you want to put the camera to where you're going to take the story. Because, I've been on other projects before where you may have other camera guys, and you say like, hey, we're going to film this. And they all go like this. I'm like, oh, this is good. And you're like, no, just have to slow down. You got to be like the Matrix. Just stick with something and start to feel the energy, and then just follow that, and don't get too crazy, with it. And that's what I try to do when I'm filming. I just try to really just live in the moment, really, really in the moment.
Yeah, I'm down here because of Ted Turner. I've been working with CNN for over 32 years now. So it's
oh, no way. Okay. Okay.
That's wonderful. I was in the World Report conference. World Report was a big thing that Ted did way back in the day about getting journalists from all over the world to converge on Atlanta. And I gave a speech at that about video editing, because I'd done a lot of that with the company. And Ted was amazing. I met his then wife, Jane.
Oh, okay. They were great. I mean, a great company. And, his daughters were there, and got to meet them, and some of the kids and grandkids. And you could tell it was they all had a happy yet sad kind of thing going on. Like, we're here to celebrate Dad or whatnot. But it was neat, and of course I had known about the guy and seen him, and, think about all that land that he has, and bringing back Buffalo and all that insanity that he's been able to do, and CNN. And that's quite a story, man. That's quite a thing to, basically come from nothing and turn it into something like that,
Incredibly inspirational.
Yeah.
Inspirational. I'm so glad that you had included that towards the end. It was just great. I saw Julian Lennon twice in concert. Yes, I don't know why he's not still out there producing new music. I don't understand that at all.
Well, he lives in Italy, and if you follow him on Instagram, which you could, you'll see that he eats really well, and his place is beautiful, and he's got a cool studio. Probably no reason to really do anything when you've got that going for you, I guess. I've been in Italy one time for a couple of weeks, and it was gorgeous. I did Siena, Florence, Rome, and I was in basically wine country right there, and gosh, it's a postcard everywhere you look.
I love it. Yeah, I did Rome, Florence, Venice, and just completely memorable, beautiful landscapes there. It's just fascinating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for your time and telling us all about this wonderful documentary. I really enjoyed it. I recommend everybody go out to see this. This is fantastic. Hopefully we'll see this more in theaters. There's nothing like probably seeing this on a bigger screen because you shot this in pretty high resolution.
Yeah.
8K going.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, you can find it anywhere out there online. Any of the people that are doing these things now, from Apple TV to iTunes to Amazon Prime. We get a lot of people watching it on Amazon Prime. I think they really think it's an easier transaction for people, let's say, because especially with COVID, and then they all, now they can buy groceries now and all that, right? So it just seems like Prime just seemed to be like, everything leads to Amazon. I think it's just the way it goes.
Yeah, there are a lot of different outlets. YouTube TV is a place too to get that. You could rent and buy that. So definitely try to check that out. And hopefully we'll see a lot more from you. You got more projects coming up. So I think that's fantastic.
Yep. The next one I'm doing is called Triangle Park. It's on the first ever NFL football game.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So I'm into writing that right now, and onboarding a lot of interesting Hall of Fame football players, and it's going to be a great project. So I'm excited to do that one.
Well, I appreciate your time. It's been fantastic speaking with you today.
All right. Thanks, Robert.
Take care. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, oh, sorry. We were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.